a second, I thought we were on $64,000 question. Since they exploded onto the music scene a decade ago, Jon Bon Jovi and his band have sold upwards of 50 million albums and become international superstars. There have been ups and downs along the way, as there have been for all performers, but Jon somehow has managed to enjoy both the rewards of rock and roll and the pitfalls have, for the most part, been dealt with in a very, very positive way. Jon, thanks for coming on tonight.
My pleasure.
Welcome to the program. Have you ever had to have, like, the insurance doctor checkup where they come in and give you the check over? Isn't that something?
Yeah, you know, you think of yourself then as a product, you know, as a commodity, right? You know, this guy comes in and he goes, "Hi, nice to meet you." Snap. Oh, no.
Yeah, right. And you know that, you know, your widow and your family may well be destitute, but the company will be profitable.
The company has to make money.
I want to talk to you here about the real disparity between the image of the MTV rock and roll band and the real life that Jon and his family lead. I just met you and your wife. And your next child, your second, is due in about a month. And, I mean, you're just a normal guy with a family who is living a normal life, yet you happen to be an internationally famous star. How do you keep that balance?
Well, don't take it too seriously. I look at us as a bar band. We just play big bars. You know, that's the idea.
15, 20,000 people in the bar every night, yeah.
All it's ever aspired to be was that. And as the success came, it was welcomed, but the idea that you'd live the lifestyle, that never works for us. We still all live basically in the same area we grew up in. We all live in New Jersey.
Right, and you grew up there.
Yeah.
Your dad was a working man. Your mom was a Playboy bunny working to help support the family.
Right.
And at one point you wrote a song, and a couple of you went to a radio station, got the song on the air, didn't you?
Correct. It was before I had the band together, but at that time, playing original music in New Jersey, there was no longevity in that, unless you had a record deal. You know, you had to be in a cover band and doing other people's music, which I hadn't done at that point for a couple of years. And so there was no income, you know, and there was no opportunities to really play your music for more than 50 people for $100 a night if you were lucky.
And what would you do to support yourself if you couldn't make the $100 a night?
Whatever you had to do.
In your case, that was?
Odd jobs, if there was fast food places or a 7-Eleven, as we talked about.
Yeah, you worked there, didn't you?
I did, for a short time, you know, until I was let go. Kinney Shoes, you know, where I realized that you're supposed to make money by selling the shoes. I spent more time having to clean the bathroom because the glow guy in the sales totem pole, you get to clean the bathroom again. No, but me and jobs like that weren't working out, auto body shops, whatever it took to make a couple of bucks, to put a couple more dollars of gas in so I could go to a bar.
Sure, sure. And by the way, to go to the bar to make your music and earn $100 rather than cleaning out
drinks. Yeah. So you lost money every night.
You know, before we started, and you were here for this, one of the producers mentioned that, and I didn't know this, but did they have the height chart on your 7-Eleven door?
No, they didn't have it.
They do now. You know,
I heard this.
And the reason that they do, and I couldn't believe this, is that if there's a suspect on the way out after robbing, it'll help the clerk behind the counter know how tall the fella is before he gets out with the money.
Great.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, as I crawled out from under the counter, he was 5'10".
And so you don't have a band, and you wrote this record, and you got it played on radio stations.
Correct. What was happening, like I was saying, it was very difficult to get a record deal. And most A&R guys are afraid to sign or take a chance on a young band. And especially without representation or a history behind you, I went to a radio station because I thought, who sits in a room by himself with a microphone, does what he loves to do, which is spin records, and talk into this mic?
The DJ.
Well, it was a DJ. And I went in and I said, you know, look, if it stinks, just tell me, but I'm really frustrated at this point. Listen to this song, Runaway. And he did, and he liked it enough and begged me to put it on this homegrown album that the radio station was putting on. They were a brand new station out of New York that's now defunct called WAPP. And a DJ named Chip Hobart there.
But you know, I remember that station when I lived there 20 years ago.
It was there for a short period of time. It's now a country station. It was 103.5 on the dial out there. But by my saying, okay, why not? You know, it wasn't what you ever aspired to do when you're a kid. You see, I'm going to get a record deal. Well, you think album. You don't think single. You don't think one cut on a local record. Okay, we'll see what happens. The fluke was, A, it was New York City, and I was getting airplay in New York City without a record deal or a manager or even a band at that point. And then the station was owned by a chain, and that chain picked up the song. And now it was causing a bit of a
Sure, because now you're in a number of cities across the country. You're going national now.
The competition is saying, where'd that song, who is that, how is that? And record companies then turned around and paid attention, and in 1983, fortunately, I got a record deal.
Yeah, and then the rest is history. You get bigger and bigger, and now you play more and more dates, and you spend a lot of time on the road, I'm sure. What is the road like for a band? You know, those of us who don't do it or who do the road once a year or twice a year, it's very difficult because you're not doing it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough being away. You know, you got to take care of your laundry, take care of your food, get your sleep, keep your life in order. That's tough if you don't do it all the time.
It's similar to the life of a traveling salesman,
yeah,
or this, you know, or a circus act, because in essence what you do is you live out of a suitcase. You know, everything you have is confined to that suitcase, and that's it. And you're on a bus until you get to a situation where hopefully you can fly. That's your home. So
yeah,
all you have is that bus, and especially coming up through the ranks, you don't even get hotel rooms except for days off. So 5 nights a week you're sleeping on a bus, and 2 nights you're in a hotel room if you're lucky. And then you've got a roommate. So the time coming up, but I wouldn't have traded that for anything. You meet people in other cities that you befriend. You find your favorite place to go get a burger or go to a bar, and the experiences then mount up. And what I've done, the way I've seen the world and the way I've done any sightseeing was out the window of a bus or a car. You take the picture. Oh, there's Mount Fuji there on the bullet train. Oh, that's nice. And I didn't have any desire to climb it, you know. To me, that was the way to see the world. I remember on one of our tours, we were flying over Mount Rushmore and said, could you just go around one more time? You know, just, the picture didn't come out. So that's really the way you see the world.
I know. The problem with the road, and when I've been on it for certain times, is you tend to go through all the places you'd like to stay, and you tend to stay in all the places you just as soon go through.
Absolutely.
You know, we went through Hong Kong and we stayed in Manila.
Right.
You know, it was just, it was wrong.
Right, right.
What about in the early days on the road where maybe all of you have the bus and you probably can't afford a hotel room, you sleep in the bus overnight? That's
right. That was life. And as an opening act, if you know, you'd get a pizza and a couple 6-packs of beer, and that was what you lived on. It was really actually the lifestyle that you prayed for.
Sure.
You know, and look back on so fondly. That was the dream, you know, just to get on a bus. I remember our first bus on our first tour in '83, where we sat in the parking lot the entire afternoon prior to that first show on the bus. You know, you left your parents home, and you sat on the bus, and you said, this is it. This is home. And, you know, you waved goodbye and thought this was way nicer than anywhere that I was going to live.
And by the way, hello world, here we come.
Here we come.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw, you know, you saw America for the first time. It wasn't just New York and L.A. or where your grandparents lived or, you know, anything like that. You actually got to see the country.
It's great. We are with Jon Bon Jovi. The toll-free line is up and running here at 800-95-CBS TV. That's 800-952-2788. I'm Tom. This is the simulcast. We're coming right back after a short break.
Little while, tell me now, how long has this been?
It's Gershwin, isn't it? How long has this been going on? You do Gershwin?
I did there. There was a tribute album to Gershwin this year that Larry Adler, the harmonica player, for his 80th birthday, did, and George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, produced the album and asked me if I would sing a song. And for the opportunity to meet him and then Larry, I jumped at the chance and flew to London and sang this.
And how comfortable was it for you to do?
It was no problem. It was easy.
Good is good, isn't it?
Well, it was fun, and it was an honor to work with both of them, because, boy, can Larry play, and George in the history, and I just said, you got to tell me Beatles stories. And so as long as he would tell me Beatles stories, I just sat there and sang all night for him.
Yeah, but I mean, when you sing Gershwin, you say to yourself, good is good.
I know. The lyric, though, was so relatable. And I went through everything. I went through a catalog of material to find something that could be personally mine. You know, I mean, Summertime, and some of the other classics didn't really work. This one worked.
Yeah, yeah. And it was easy for you?
It was easy.
Here is Steve on the toll-free in Lawrence, Kansas. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Here's Jon Bon Jovi. He's right here.
Hey, John. How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey, I appreciate you saying that you started doing the bar band circuit, and I'm wanting to extend an invitation to you to come to the fine community of Lawrence, Kansas, which has a hopping music scene, and do a bar gig.
All right, you never know. You just never know.
I mean, would you play a venue that small?
Sure. Our situations usually are, if we play a big venue and you've got the energy or you're staying the night, you find the local bar and you do that.
Yeah.
You just go.
By the way, Steve, you know, and All American knows. Remember the movie The Day After, where they blew up the United States and everybody died on ABC?
Yeah.
The movie that was supposed to scare everybody. Isn't Lawrence, Kansas, Steve, the place where the bomb hit?
Yeah, that's where the movie was filmed.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
What was it like there? I mean, did that bring a lot of money into the local economy, millions of dollars?
Oh, sure it did, because this is a non-union state, and they love that.
All right, Steve. Yeah.
It's great to see you on, and especially after Dave. I think it's the strongest 2 hours on TV.
You're kidding, really?
No, and the CNBC stuff was also very good, you know, relaxed and informal and
Right.
all, but, you know, I really do think we need to call a sweat meeting and get this thing under control.
Hey, Steve, we're having no more meetings this week. We're all through with meetings, all right?
Let's call in the Mayo Clinic.
I beg your pardon?
Let's call in the Mayo Clinic dermatologist.
All right, Steve, have a great weekend and take care, and thanks for the laugh.
Best of success, Tom.
All right, thank you,
Take it
sir.
easy.
All
Bye,
right,
John.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Tracy in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing, Trace?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine. Jon Bon Jovi's right here.
Hi, John.
Hi, Trace.
Well, going with the previous caller, talking about playing hole in the walls in small clubs, I had the extreme pleasure of seeing you play in December, the benefit concert you did in Boston,
Oh, yeah.
which was amazing. I've
Oh,
seen you
that's
over
nice.
a dozen times, and the show was a free-for-all, and it was the most fun I think I've ever had at a show.
Well, thank you
It was
very
one
much.
of the best concerts you guys ever did.
Thank you. That's kind of you. Every Christmas, we for the last 5 years, have done a very small theater in our hometown, and we charge an exorbitant amount of money for the tickets and give every nickel of it to the local food bank, the women's shelter, the
terrific.
kids, and 5 years running now. And this year, we decided, being that it's the 5th year, let's do 5 shows, and one of them was Boston. Again, the very, very small, intimate theater where anything goes, cover songs, new songs, old songs.
But now, is there a plan to it, or do you just go in
no.
free for all and like?
Truly from the cuff. In the Boston show, I had Drew Bledsoe out there singing.
Oh, really?
You know, Cam
You
Neely.
give
from
love a bad name.
Yeah, he and Scott Zolak and Matty Barr and Steve Diassi and all the
Fabulous.
Patriots and the couple of the Bruin guys and all of these athletes that were there, and Peter Wolf from the Jay Giles band was at the show.
And like Tracy, do you get to shout out? Could you play? Do they get requests in these things?
They were asking
Really?
for a few. It was pretty hard to be heard, although it was a small place. We were making a lot of noise.
Right. And what's the exorbitant amount of money you'd have to pay?
Well, I don't know, actually, because I work in the concert circuit in Boston. And
She got in for nothing. Here we are raising money for charity, giving it all to the cancer fund there in Boston, and she got in for nothing. I think you should make a donation to the Kiss Cancer Fund right now.
Hey, I wanted to see you that bad. I snuck in.
Tracy, I'm
There's got
glad
to
you
be
called.
something to be said for that, John.
There was.
Yeah,
Thank
there
you.
is. Tracy, I'm glad you called. Have a good weekend now.
Thank you.
All
Happy
right,
New Year,
all
John.
right. Good night.
Congratulations.
Thank you, dear.
What would be, in your view, what's the toughest kind of music you have to sing and play? What's hard for you to do?
Oh, my. I don't know, because everything is really rock and roll based. It's not that I go out and do everything from stage stuff to classical stuff to country stuff. It's all stuff that I've written through the years.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And it's based in songs that I've
You've
written.
never sung anybody else's stuff?
No, there was one song on my first album that a record guy says, if you do this, we'll give you a deal. I did it, he didn't give me a deal, you know? And I never
Fool
did-
me once, shame
Yeah,
on me.
that
Fool
was-
me for once,
That's
yeah,
right.
shame on me the second time.
Right, the second time. I was not a fool ever again. And it was a fine, nice song, but it was very difficult to relate to someone else's words and to sing about someone else's experiences. So it's never happened, and I hope it never does.
You know, not a lot, but some musicians have fought hard against the battle of addiction and have lost to it. Most recently comes to mind the name of Kurt Cobain. When there is an event like that in your fraternity, what does it do to you?
That affected me. It affected me greatly for a number of reasons, but one was that he had a baby daughter who was the same age as my own
There you go.
daughter. And the pleasure that my daughter gives me and brings to me, I'm sorry for her, for his daughter, Francis, that she won't have that fun that I want to have
Every
with my
day out there,
own
sure,
daughter, you
sure.
know? And that's the first thing that really crushed me. But the pitfalls of this business, like any other high-profile business that all of us are in these days, I have a problem with, if you have a problem being famous, don't be famous.
Yeah, exactly. Walk away.
He could still write great songs. He could still play great songs. You know, why do you have to, you know, give in to the pitfalls of it? Just cool it. Don't go on the road.
Or if you don't want to have that kind of attention and notoriety. I was talking here last night with Kelsey Grammer, and let's face it, when you become Kelsey Grammer, you forfeit a certain amount of your private life. And
Sure.
if you don't want to do it, you just don't do Frasier anymore. That's all.
Don't do it.
And how do you keep those size 10s on the ground, those feet. How do you keep it all in balance?
I don't know. I don't know that, you certainly run amok for a while. I think it comes with experience of getting slapped down when you get too big, when you go home again, where we're from, and the idea that everybody, like I said, still lives in the same area, and, you go home at night when it's all over. There aren't any Joneses to keep up with, in the sticks.
That's well said. No more Joneses to keep up with. Back with Jon Bon Jovi for just a few more moments and a couple of your calls on the toll-free highway. And then a little bit later on tonight, Barry Minko, the young man who started out as a carpet cleaner and wound up going to jail for fraud, for defrauding people out of $26 million and more. We'll be right back after a break. We're with Jon Bon Jovi tonight. On Monday night, Gary Shandling is here, and the Reverend Bernice King, who is Martin Luther King's daughter, to commemorate the birthday of this great American leader. And here is Cindy on the toll-free line in Mooresville, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, Cindy.
Good evening.
Here's Jon Bon Jovi. Say hi.
Hello, John.
Hello, Cindy.
I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you.
My question to you is, I was wondering how you and the band have stayed together. I know it's tough to keep a band together these days, and you guys seem like you're really close and have a good, strong friendship.
Well, that's what it's based on. I think that we've seen the ups and the downs, and it is based on friendship. And without that, it really wouldn't be worth doing.
But there have been some changes through the years. There always are.
One,
is that all?
2 months ago, for the first time in 12 years, we lost our bass player who's left the band. But other than that, I've never had anyone else. And there will be no replacement named for Alec, our bass player. There won't be another bass player named. No.
It's hard to hear that.
The loyalty is
But then don't you...
I'll hire a guy for a tour or something. But
I got you. But there'll be no permanent bass player.
There will be no member of the band. No, in the foreseeable future.
I don't think I've ever heard of a band that did that. Where if somebody passes away, you don't replace he or she.
No, my guys have been incredibly loyal to me for the 12 years we've been together, and I had no intention of hiring or bringing in a member, of the band.
Very good. Cindy, I'm glad you called. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening now.
You too. Bye-bye.
So bye-bye. You're going to be in the movies, Moonlight and Valentino. When can we expect this to come?
I hear April, May. It's all done. They've put it together now, and it's my first time out at it. It was a challenge. I wanted it as a...
I mean, you're not you. You play a role in this?
I play a role in the film. I guess they believe that I'm Valentino throughout the film, and it's a bunch of wonderful actresses. Whoopi Goldberg, Kathleen Turner, Elizabeth Perkins is the star of it, and a man named David Onspot directed it, who did Hoosiers and Rudy and some really great films.
Did you see Rudy, by the way?
Sure
Isn't
did.
that a great picture?
Great picture.
Yeah. What a great... I mean, just a little tiny picture.
I love that.
And the other one I loved, there was this picture out over Christmas with Bonnie Hunt, who I'm crazy for Bonnie Hunt. Remember, she's with Charles Grodin in the dog picture, Beethoven.
Right?
It was called Only You, where they go to Italy. And Pavarotti sings, and they take a tour of northern Italy. It was just a wonderful, wonderful picture.
I love movies. I'm a big fan of movies.
How was the experience of, starting and stopping in motion picture work, where you do your scenes, and then you go to your trailer, and then you come back? That's tough work. Very tough discipline.
Yeah, it's a long time and big setups, and, it's a different discipline is the way I looked at it. It's much different to speak someone else's words, to have to take on someone else's actions. But the challenge is what excited me. It wasn't something I jumped into. I've waited quite a long time to even be interested, let alone take it on. But with this project and these people, it was something I couldn't say no to.
Yeah, and then you had a Christmas video, as I recall, with Cindy Crawford, where you just kind of sucked face for...
One has to suffer for their art once in a while, Tom. It's tough being me. All in the good name of charity, nonetheless. It's... The Special Olympics, actually, is something I've been very involved in for a number of years.
I know.
And their album, the second album, because I've done both of them for them, was done a couple of years ago. And Herb Ritz, the fine photographer, is a video director. And he asked me if I would do the video for the song I had sung 2 years later. And he, being a very good friend of Cindy's, pulled her in. And, it's tough being me. And probably the reason she's not getting divorced.
Oh, come on. Oh, stop it.
Yeah. I think we should retake a couple of those shots.
I'll bet you 5 against 40 that you might have been a little shy about it.
Just a little bit.
I know.
I'm lying. See what a good actor I am.
You know, if you're this good in Moonlight and Valentino, you got a hit on your hands, kid. Anyway, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming in tonight. And happy baby.
Yes.
Boy or girl, you don't know.
Baby, that's all I
healthy,
care about.
good luck, and
Thanks,
much love.
Tom.
Thanks, Bon Jovi. By the way, the new CD is out now. It is Jon Bon Jovi. It is called Crossroad. It's a collection of great hits. We'll be right back with Barry Minko and the story of the $26 million swindle right after these messages.